All right, looks like it's time for some deja vu here. The Edmonton Oilers are facing off against the Vegas Golden Knights for only the second time in the playoffs. It feels like with the rivalry that these two teams have, you would think they would have faced off more times. But again, when you think about it, Vegas has only been around for less than 10 years, and they've only faced off once before. Now, that was the year that Vegas went on to win the Stanley Cup, where they won 4-2 in that series. Jonathan Marchessault had a hat trick. Unreal stuff there. And now we head into this series with things a little bit different. Both teams have been to the Cup final. One team has won it. One team has lost it. One team has also been a first-round exit since then as well, that being the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, they are the divisional winner in this series, Vegas that being, and I would say they may have the advantage, but depending on who you ask, they might not. 50, 22, and 10 for 110 points in the regular season. They scored 275 goals and allowed 219. I thought that Vegas looked phenomenal throughout the entire year. They had a little bit of a rough patch in January, but since then they've come out and have been a consistently good team, a consistently talented team, and they had the firepower to really get something going here. However, the way they played against Minnesota made me pretty scared. I'm not going to lie to you guys. The way they played against the Wild made me a little bit scared for what this team's going to look like here moving forward, just with how they let that overall first line of Kaprizov, Bodie, Eriksson, that just kind of go off on them, and they really didn't have a solution to it. If you can't figure that out for Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl, that's a problem. Now, let's get into the actual stats here now. In the regular season, they scored an average of 3.34 goals for per game. In the playoffs, that goes down to 3 goals. So average, it doesn't really matter. You round it up, it's 3 goals either way. But even still, that number's going down a little bit. In the regular season, their goals against was 2.61. It's 3.17. Yeah, that's a little bit of a worry. Again, they're lucky that Minnesota was a little bit of a weaker team. Vegas has that overall firepower, but I didn't really think Adin Hill played that good. I thought the defense was all right, but I'm a little bit worried seeing those numbers and how that's going to do here against the Edmonton Oilers, who are a highly scoring team. And by the way, have scored the most goals for per game in these playoffs so far. They have a 28.3 power play percentage, and then in the playoffs, they have a 27.8 power play percentage. So overall, that number's gone down just a tad. It's not really that big of a deal. It pretty much stays the same, to be honest with you. So nothing too concerning there. And then with the penalty kill in the regular season, it was 75.7. In the playoffs, it's been 76.9. So goes up there by a little bit over 1%. Nothing too crazy there in terms of a big increase. So I'm not really worried there in terms of that for Vegas. Again, their numbers are mostly the same, but I am a little bit worried with Adin Hill's play and how that's going to turn out here heading into this series coming up against the highly contended Edmonton Oilers team, who, by the way, have had their troubles with saving the puck as well. 48, 29, and 5 for 101 points. They were the Pacific third team, so the third-seeded team in the Pacific Division. They scored 259 goals and allowed 236. So the Oilers, they get off to their regular start. They start off bad. They come back. They go on a big winning streak. They started teetering off towards the end. They got back on track. They lose the first 2 games to LA, but then they end up repeating history and beating them 4-2. So again, not surprised there, unfortunately, at the slightest. But we knew it was probably going to happen. After game 3, I'm like, oh, they're going to come back in this series, aren't they? And they did. This is a team that can do that. This is a team that is able to do that. So you look at their goals for. In the regular season, they averaged a 3.16. In the playoffs, 4.5. And that comes with against a really good LA team. A really good LA team. And the Oilers have proven that, it doesn't matter what team they're playing, whether it's the San Jose Sharks or the Florida Panthers, they can score goals. That's the biggest thing. You have, I would say, one of the highest top-end forward cores in the league. You have, your top 5 players who are just, highly contested, highly scoring. And then your bottom 6 is not as so much. They still have guys that can score, but it's not as good as it really once was. It's just unreal how the Oilers are built that way. Their goals allowed, however, 2.87 in the regular season, 4 in the playoffs. They are the second lowest, and you know who's the lowest? LA, the team that they beat, in terms of teams in the playoffs this year with goals against per game. It's not ideal. It really is not ideal with the way they've been playing, especially down the stretch defensively. I think if they want to beat Vegas, their defensive game is really going to need to tighten up. Otherwise, I'm taking Vegas. I hate to say it. Their power play, 23.7 in the regular season, 38.5 in the playoffs. So their power play in the playoffs has nearly gone up by 20%. Their overall, like, they're scoring 2 for every 4 power plays, almost. So just insane stuff there when you look at those analytical numbers. And then their PK, 78.2 in the regular season, 60% in the playoffs. So overall, it's like up and down. Their offensive numbers have drastically increased. Their defensive numbers have drastically decreased. So I'm not shocked there in terms of that, but obviously you're playing a team like LA who also scored a good amount in this series, but they didn't score enough. Edmonton obviously outscored them. It definitely played a factor in why they won this series with the offense and how that things went. Now, looking at the scores for each team, you have Jack Eichel leading the way in regular season numbers, 28 goals, 66 assists for 94 points. In these playoffs, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points. Now, that makes me extremely concerned for how this offense is going to look in the playoffs. I get it. Edmonton is lesser offense. Minnesota's D is better than Edmonton's D, I'm sorry to say. Sorry, Evan Bouchard lovers. Without Ekholm, and by the way, they're not going to have him for the second round either. Without Ekholm, Minnesota's defense is better, but it makes me concerned at the sense that they can't score against Minnesota. They can't get pucks past Gustafsson. And he kind of kept the Wild in that run there for a little bit. And that's why Vegas' numbers might be down a little bit here. Mark Stone, 19 goals, 48 assists, 67 points. He had 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points in the playoffs there as well. Honestly, I thought Stone looked better than Eichel. I'm still really concerned. Like, I don't like how their offense is looking, just like their overall numbers. They don't really impress me that much. I need to see more out of them if I want to say, like, yeah, they can probably win this series, but overall, those numbers do make me worried there in the playoffs. Tomas Hertl, 32 goals, 29 assists, 61 points. He had 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points in the playoffs. Hertl, we know what he can be, phenomenal player. He's had some great years with San Jose. This was finally his first year, because last year he was injured a lot of the year. This is his first year where he could really, kind of take off with Vegas, and it's been great to see, honestly. Shea Theodore, their number 1 defenseman, I would argue, 7 goals, 50 assists, 57 points. He had 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points inside of the playoffs there as well. Shea Theodore, phenomenal defenseman. Again, as I said, they're number 1 D. He can score on offense, and he can play on defense too. He's one of those type of players that can do that, and I think that that's something that really is going to need to be taken a look at there by Edmonton. How can you beat Shea Theodore? How can you beat Alex Pietrangelo? How can you beat arguably one of the better D-cores in the league? And I'm going to be honest, I put Vegas' D-core over Edmonton's. It's hard to say again. And then Pavel Dorofeyev, who actually led the team in goals this year. He's a young kid from Russia, drafted back in 2019, spent some time in Henderson, played a little bit last year. This year, with Marchessault leaving and him getting some more time on the ice, 35 goals, 17 assists, 52 points this year. He scored 35 goals. That guy is going to be a goal scorer when he's in his prime, more or less. And then he had 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points in the playoffs there too. So again, that's the guy you're going to need to watch out for there. He only had 1 goal in the first round. I expect that to increase here against a guy like Calvin Pickard or Stuart Skinner. I really do. Other guys who I think deserve shout-outs here in the Vegas lineup, Brett Howden, 3 goals. And then Nicholas Waugh had 3 points too. Again, those are guys who I think are on your bottom 6 and your depth line players that you need to perform, and they are. And that's a really good thing to see there from the Golden Knights, especially in the sense where their bigger guys haven't really panned out or haven't really played to the level that we think they would be in the playoffs. On the contrary, on the Edmonton Oilers side, you have Leon Draisaitl, who led the way. 52 goals, 54 assists for 106 points. He had 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points in the playoffs there as well. Draisaitl was great. Again, there's really no argument there too. Same with Connor McDavid, 26 goals, 74 assists, 100 points there too. I might as well mention them in the same sentence. 2 goals, 9 assists, 11 points there in the playoffs. You know, look, those are 2 guys for you that are going to lead you in playoff scoring. Those are 2 guys that you know can play unreal. And just overall, those are the best 2 players in the league. It's not really, well, I guess it could be close, but right now, those 2 guys are the hottest, and they are the number 1 and number 2 guys you have to watch out for. You have to watch out for. Because if you can let them go in there and score goals and play the way they played against LA, this one's done in 6. I'm being blunt. And it's not in Vegas' favor either. This might be done even earlier than that, if we're being honest. Now, Evan Bouchard, their number one D man, I would argue, outside of Ekholm, I would probably argue he's still their number one D, had 14 goals, 53 assists, 67 points this past year. He had 4 goals, 3 assists, 7 points in the playoffs. It's so crazy how Bouchard can look pretty bad defensively, but then light it up offensively. He's one of the few players that I know that can do things like that. He's just a guy like that is phenomenal one way and just the other way isn't that great. But overall, Bouchard, still a very solid defenseman and is somebody that Edmonton is going to be using a lot here in this first round with Ekholm not playing in the second. Definitely. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins then up next, 20 goals, 29 assists, 49 points there as well for the Oilers. 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points in the playoffs. Nugent-Hopkins is far away from that 100-point season he had last year or 2 years ago. He's not going to get that again, more likely than not. But 50 points is surprising. I thought he'd be a little bit better than that. But overall, the injuries did take a plague with Edmonton here in this playoff run in this overall series. So I think Nugent-Hopkins has looked good in the games he's played, and I think he's going to be somebody that Vegas is again going to have to watch out for here moving forward. And then Zach Hyman, 27 goals, 17 assists, 44 points in the regular season, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points in the playoffs. I mean, to be honest, Hyman, still a good player, but not as good as he was in that year where he scored like 50 goals. Again, I think you're going to need to find some more offense out of him in this next round if you want to see something happen. But Hyman, still a very good player, not to be scoffed at there whatsoever. And then as well as that too, Connor Brown, 5 points in this series against LA. He looked very good there too. And then Vasily Podkolzin, 4 assists. So you have your depth guys doing pretty well. I'm not going to lie. You have your depth guys who are putting up secondary scoring. I think, to be honest, if they can just tighten up on the defensive side of the game, I think they can beat Vegas. I think this is a very winnable series for Edmonton. I think they can do it. Now, that being said, the biggest thing for the Oilers is the goaltending. So we'll start off with them first. You'll lead off with Calvin Pickard, 22, 10, and 1, a 2.71 in the regular season, a .900. This year in the playoffs, 4-0, a 2.93, and a .893. So I think he hasn't been incredible, but he has been way better than Stuart Skinner was. Way better. It's not close. It's not close either. Skinner was brutal in those first 2 games. Pickard is going to be your starter. Unless if Vegas comes in there and lights him on fire the first game or two, I think he's going to be your starter the whole series. I think, to be honest with you, that's what's going to happen. And then Stuart Skinner, I got to mention him too. 26, 18, and 4, a 2.81 and a .890, or a .810. Sorry, I'm reading my screen wrong. .810. Or, yeah, .890 in the regular season, and .810 in the playoffs. You can tell I'm tired. 0-2 and a 6.11. 6.11 in the playoffs this year. He probably won't see the light of day unless if Calvin Pickard gets lit up and worse. Like, he probably won't see the light of day in this series, if we're being blunt. And then Adin Hill, 32, 13, and 5, a 2.47 and a .906. He had a 4-2 record in the playoffs, a 2.83 and a .880. I think Hill is going to be a guy to watch out for. I didn't think he was, like, incredible against Minnesota, but I thought he was good enough. I think if they can tighten it up a little bit more against a highly touted offensive team, I think Vegas can take this. In my opinion, they're taking it in 6 games. That's my take. I have to stick with my gut here and go with the Golden Knights. That was my cut pick at the beginning of the playoffs. Again, I can't switch up, just like how I said with Carolina, Washington. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoy, make sure to like the video down below. Please consider subscribing. That being said, it is it for me. Thank you all for watching. Enjoy the games tonight, and I'll see you guys in the next video.